My father-in-law looked me dead in the eyes and said I should be grateful they let me sleep in their garage. I was holding his grandchild, his own blood, 8 months old with her daddy's eyes and my stubborn chin. And this man, standing in his $3,000 suit in his perfectly manicured backyard, wanted me to say thank you for a cot next to the lawnmower. My name is Melissa Porter. I'm 29 years old. And 3 months ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I moved into my in-laws' house after my husband Brandon got deployed to Germany. When Brandon first brought up the idea, it sounded almost reasonable. He was going overseas for 14 months. We had a 5-month-old baby. His parents had that big house with 3 empty bedrooms. His mother, Donna, actually cried when she offered. She said she wanted to help. She said, "Family takes care of family." What she didn't mention was that I'd become their unpaid servant, their punching bag, and their personal ATM. I gave up our apartment to save money for our future home. Brandon and I had been married for 2 years, and we were finally getting our feet under us. We had $47,000 in our joint account, enough for a down payment on a starter home when he got back. Then I moved into the Mitchell house. You know the type. Big columns out front serving no structural purpose whatsoever. A circular driveway designed purely for showing off. The kind of house that screams, "We have money," while whispering most of it is credit card debt. But it looked impressive from the outside, which I would learn was the only thing that mattered to the Mitchells. The first week was fine. Donna showed me to a nice guest room. Richard helped carry my bags. Ashley, Brandon's older sister, even brought over a casserole. I thought maybe I had been too harsh in my private judgments. By week 2, things shifted. Donna mentioned the guest room was actually saved for her sister's visit. Would I mind moving to the space above the garage? Just temporarily, of course. The space turned out to be unfinished storage, with a camping cot and a space heater that worked about as well as a birthday candle in a blizzard. I'm pretty sure I could have stored ice cream up there without a freezer, but I told myself it was temporary. Then they took my car. Well, they convinced me to let them keep it safe. Donna said the neighborhood had break-ins. She said I didn't need to drive anywhere anyway since everything was right there at the house. And I, exhausted from sleepless nights with a fussy baby, handed over my keys like an idiot. I haven't driven in 3 months, haven't had access to our bank account either. Richard got himself added to the account and gave me a weekly allowance of $40 for me and a baby. Have you seen the price of formula lately? I could write a horror novel about diaper costs alone. The expensive diapers that didn't give Emma a rash cost about $28 a box. That left me roughly $12 for food. I started skipping meals so my daughter wouldn't go without. Lost 15 pounds I didn't have to lose. My phone got switched to their family plan too. For convenience, they said. What they didn't mention was they could see everything I did. The one time I tried to email Brandon the truth, Donna found it on the family computer and deleted it. Then she took away my laundry privileges as punishment. I spent 2 weeks hand-washing baby clothes like a Victorian washerwoman while my knuckles cracked and bled. Every morning, I'd wake up in that freezing garage before dawn, change Emma's diaper by flashlight because Richard complained the garage light ran up the electric bill, and then start my day of servitude. Breakfast for the family, dishes, laundry, vacuuming, dusting, ironing Richard's shirts. He insisted on having them ironed, not just dried. Then lunch, more dishes, grocery lists, whatever errands Donna decided I needed to run. On foot, of course, since I had no car. By dinner, I was exhausted. But dinner was the worst. I was expected to cook, serve, and clean up, but not to eat with them. I ate afterward in the kitchen whatever was left, usually cold scraps. Family dinners are important, Donna explained sweetly when I asked if I could join them. But with the baby, it's just easier if you eat separately, less disruptive. Less disruptive. I was disruptive. My own daughter was disruptive to the family she was supposedly part of. One night, there were no leftovers. Richard had seconds. Ashley stopped by unexpectedly and finished what remained. I went to bed hungry that night, nursing Emma, wondering how much longer my milk would hold out if I kept skipping meals. Now, before we continue, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt trapped in a situation where the people who should help you were actually the ones hurting you? If this story is resonating with you, please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single comment. Now, let me tell you what happened next. 2 weeks ago, Richard decided the gutters needed cleaning. He decided I should be the one to do it. His exact words were that I needed to earn my keep. So I climbed that rickety ladder, made it about 15 feet up, and the whole thing shifted. I grabbed for the roof, missed, and came down hard on my left ankle. The pain was white hot, like someone drove a nail through my foot. Donna heard me scream. She looked at my ankle swelling to the size of a grapefruit and told me to walk it off. No doctor, no ice, just walk it off. So I hobbled around for 2 weeks doing chores on an ankle that turned purple and yellow and made sounds no ankle should make. Through all this, I told no one. My dad, Frank Porter, raised me by himself after my mom left when I was 7. He worked construction his whole life, built houses, built buildings, built me. He taught me to be strong, independent, to never let anyone push me around. And here I was, being pushed into the ground. I couldn't tell him. The shame would have killed me. But last Friday, Dad decided to drive 200 miles to surprise his granddaughter for her unofficial 8-month birthday. He pulled up just as I was limping across the lawn, Emma on my hip, groceries in my other hand. I had walked 2 miles to the store and back because I had no car. My ankle was screaming, and my father saw everything. He watched me struggle up the driveway. Then he asked where my car was. I told him Donna took it, that I was lucky they let me stay. My father's face went through 7 emotions in 3 seconds. Confusion, anger, rage, more rage. And finally, something that scared me more than all the others. Calm. Complete calm. The kind that comes right before a hurricane makes landfall. He opened his truck door and spoke 4 words that changed everything. Get in the car, we're fixing this tonight. I didn't know what that meant, but the look in his eyes told me the Mitchells had just made a very serious enemy. And Frank Porter didn't lose fights. Not ever. My father is the kind of man who doesn't talk much, but when he does, people listen. He raised me alone after Mom left, worked double shifts, made sure I had everything I needed, clothes, books, a college fund he'd been building since I was born. He taught me to change a tire when I was 12, taught me to throw a punch when I was 14, told me 1,000 times that I should never depend on anyone for my safety or my survival. You can love someone and still keep yourself protected, he'd say. That's not distrust. That's wisdom. I should have listened. Instead, I handed my keys, my bank access, and my freedom to people who saw me as nothing but an obstacle between them and my husband's money. But Dad was here now, and the Mitchells had no idea what was coming. My father drove us to a diner 3 towns over. He said he didn't want anyone reporting back to the Mitchells. At the time, I thought he was being paranoid. Later, I realized he was being strategic. Everything Dad did from that moment was strategic. The man spent 35 years in union construction. He knew how to deal with bullies. And the Mitchells, he told me over coffee, were running one of the oldest cons in the book. I told him everything that night. Every humiliation, every stolen privilege. The words poured out like water from a broken pipe. 3 months of silence, finally breaking free. I told him about Ashley, Brandon's older sister who visited almost daily. Not to help, never to help. She came to report back to her mother about everything I did wrong. The dishes weren't clean enough. The baby cried too much. I wasn't grateful enough for everything her generous family was doing for poor little me. Ashley never liked me. I came from a working-class family. My father worked with his hands. In Ashley's world, that made me less than. Dad listened without interrupting. When I told him about Donna monitoring my emails, His knuckles went white. When I mentioned the latter, I thought he might flip the table, but he just nodded and asked one question. "What else haven't you told Brandon?" That's when I broke, because I hadn't told Brandon anything. Every video call, his parents were in the room, listening, monitoring. If I tried to text something real, they checked my phone. I was completely cut off from my own husband. But it was worse than that. Donna called Brandon regularly on her own phone, gushing about how wonderful everything was, how happy Melissa seemed, how grateful I was. She made it sound like I was thriving. And Brandon, stuck on a base 6,000 miles away with limited internet and no reason to doubt his own parents, believed every word. Dad asked about the bank account. I told him Richard handled everything. I got my $40 on Mondays, and that was all I saw of our money. Dad asked if I still had login access. I said I thought so. I'd never actually tried since moving in. My father smiled then. Not a happy smile. The kind a chess player makes when they see checkmate 3 moves away. He dropped money on the table and said we were going to Kinko's. Kinko's at 11 p.m. is a strange place. Flickering lights, the smell of toner, one employee who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, but it had computers with internet access, anonymous internet access. Dad watched the door while I logged into our bank account for the first time in 3 months. What I found made me physically sick. Our $47,000 savings down to $16,000. Richard had been making withdrawals, regular ones $500 here, $800 there, sometimes more. The transactions showed purchases that definitely weren't mine. Golf equipment, restaurant charges, a $2,000 business expense that coincided with Ashley's new designer handbag. They weren't just controlling me, they were robbing us. I printed everything, every statement, every transaction, every piece of evidence. Dad was already on his phone, texting someone named Jimmy from the hall. I didn't ask questions. By midnight, we had a plan. Thank you so much for watching. If this story is touching your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And tell me in the comments, have you ever discovered that people you trusted were stealing from you? I love reading your responses. Now let me tell you about the plan. The next 3 days were preparation. Dad's friend Jimmy turned out to be a retired police detective who now did private investigation work. He knew exactly what we needed and how to get it legally. We documented everything. Photos of the garage room where I'd been sleeping, the cot, the space heater, the baby's crib wedged between storage boxes. Medical records from a clinic Dad took me to. My ankle had a hairline fracture that had been walking off for 2 weeks. Screenshots of the bank transactions, a timeline of every humiliation, every stolen privilege, every lie. Jimmy helped me understand what we were dealing with. Financial exploitation, isolation tactics, classic patterns of domestic abuse, just delivered by in-laws instead of a spouse. He also made some calls. Turned out Richard Mitchell had a reputation, not for anything criminal, not yet, but for sharp business practices that had cost him several partnerships over the years. People like this, Jimmy said, they think they're untouchable. They think nobody will ever call them out because they're respectable. That's their weakness. He was right. The Mitchells' entire identity was built on appearance. The big house, the expensive cars, the perfect family image they projected at church every Sunday. If that image cracked, everything would crumble. Dad wanted to go straight to the police. Jimmy convinced him to wait. "You'll get further," he said, "if you confront them publicly first, get witnesses, get reactions, then bring in the law." So we waited for the perfect moment. That moment came 3 days later, Richard's 60th birthday party. The Mitchells went all out, catered food, live music, 100 guests, including business partners, church friends, and the mayor's assistant. I was expected to serve, to smile, to be grateful. Instead, I was ready. The morning of the party, I did everything they asked, made breakfast, helped set up tables, arranged flowers. Donna complimented me for the first time in months. "See," she said, adjusting a centerpiece. "When you're cooperative, everything is so much nicer. I don't know why you had to make things difficult before." I smiled and nodded. Let her think she'd won. Inside, I was counting down the hours. Dad had coordinates on the plan. Jimmy had briefed us both. Everything was ready. At exactly 4 p.m., the guests started arriving. I watched them filter in. Church friends kissing Donna's cheeks, business partners shaking Richard's hand, neighbors bringing bottles of wine. They all smiled at me. Some of them had heard Donna's whispers about my mental health issues. I could see it in their eyes. That mix of pity and wariness reserved for unstable people. Let them look, I thought. They'll see the truth soon enough. The party was in full swing by 5:30. Richard was holding court by the bar, telling stories about his early days in business, stories I now knew were probably full of lies. Donna floated from group to group, perfect hostess smile firmly in place. Ashley was taking selfies for Instagram, probably planning her next sponsored post about family values. And I was invisible, just like they wanted me to be, until Dad's truck pulled into the driveway. Dad arrived uninvited about an hour into the party. He walked through the front door like he owned the place, wearing his best flannel shirt and work boots. Donna spotted him immediately. Her face went through shock, then fake warmth. "Frank, what a surprise. We weren't expecting—" "I'm sure you weren't," Dad said calmly, "but I needed to check on my daughter, make sure she's being treated right." The emphasis on those last words made several nearby guests turn their heads. Richard swooped in, all politician smile and firm handshake. "Frank, great to see you. Melissa didn't mention you were coming. She's been so busy with the baby, probably slipped her mind." "Probably," Dad agreed. "She's been real busy. Cleaning your gutters, washing clothes by hand, walking 2 miles to buy groceries because someone took her car." The smile on Richard's face flickered. "I'm not sure what Melissa's been telling you, but—" "She hasn't told me anything," Dad interrupted. "She was too scared to. But I've got eyes, Richard. I saw my daughter limping on a fractured ankle because you told her to walk it off. I saw my granddaughter sleeping in a garage, and I saw your bank statements." That last sentence landed like a bomb. Richard's face went white. Donna grabbed his arm. "This is hardly the place," she started. "Oh, I think it's exactly the place," Dad said. "You wanted witnesses? You got 'em. These nice folks deserve to know who they're celebrating." He pulled out his phone. "I've got printouts in the truck if anyone wants to see them. $31,000 withdrawn from my daughter's account in 3 months. Golf clubs, restaurant bills, a real nice handbag that showed up on Ashley's Instagram the same day as a $2,000 business expense." Ashley, standing near the dessert table, went pale. That's not," she stammered. "It's not what?" Dad asked. "Not true? Because I've got the receipts. Literally." The party had gone completely silent. 100 people stood frozen, champagne glasses halfway to their lips. Donna tried one last move. "Frank, please. Melissa has been struggling. Postpartum issues. She's confused about a lot of things. We've been trying to help her, but—" "Save it." My voice surprised everyone, including me. I stepped forward, Emma on my hip, and looked my mother-in-law dead in the eyes. "I'm not confused. I'm not struggling with postpartum issues. I'm a woman who trusted her husband's family and got robbed, isolated, and treated like a servant in return." I held up my phone. "I've got something else, too. Something you should all see." I had called Brandon that morning using Dad's phone. First real conversation we'd had in 3 months. He'd been angry, confused, heartbroken, and then he'd gotten on a plane. He couldn't be here in person. Not yet, but he could be here digitally. I turned my phone screen toward the crowd and hit the video call button. Brandon's face appeared. He was in an airport somewhere, still in uniform, eyes red from what I suspected was a combination of no sleep and crying. "Hey, everyone," he said, his voice cutting through the silence. "Dad, Mom, happy birthday." Richard's face twisted into something between hope and fear. Son, good to hear from you. We were just... Shut up. 2 words, quiet, devastating. I've been on the phone with my wife for 4 hours today. My actual wife. Not the version you've been describing in your cozy little phone calls, Mom. Donna's composure cracked. Brandon, sweetheart, whatever she's told you... She told me the truth, finally, because you made sure she couldn't tell me for 3 months. You monitored her phone. You deleted her emails. You cut her off from everyone who loves her. His voice was shaking now. You put my wife and daughter in a garage. You gave her $40 a week and watched her starve. You let her walk on a fractured ankle for 2 weeks because medical care would have been inconvenient. He paused. And you stole $31,000 from our savings account, our house fund, our future. The crowd was frozen. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. A man near the back, silver-haired, expensive suit, spoke up. Gerald, is this true? I later learned this was William Chen, Richard's biggest business partner, the man whose investment had kept Richard's company afloat for the past 5 years. Richard couldn't answer. His silence said everything. Brandon spoke again through the phone. Melissa, take our daughter and go with your father. I'll be home as soon as I can. I love you both. Then he looked at his parents through the camera. I don't have parents anymore. I have people who share my DNA. That's all. The screen went black, and Richard Mitchell's world went black with it. The silence lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then chaos erupted. Guests started talking all at once. Some were demanding explanations. Others were heading for the door, not wanting to be associated with what was clearly about to become a scandal. William Chen, the silver-haired business partner, pulled out his phone and made a call. I later learned he was contacting his lawyer to begin dissolving his partnership with Richard immediately. 2 women from the church prayer group were crying. They'd believed Donna's stories about me. They'd probably spread those stories themselves. Now they were realizing they'd been part of something terrible. Richard tried to regain control. Everyone, please, he said, his voice shaking. This is a family matter, a misunderstanding. If you'll just... Mr. Mitchell. A man in a gray suit stepped forward. Detective Sullivan, Jimmy's contact from the county sheriff's office. I think we need to have a conversation, down at the station. Richard's face went gray. Am I under arrest? Not yet, Sullivan said calmly, but I'd strongly recommend cooperating. We have some questions about your financial activities. A lot of questions. Ashley was crying now, mascara running down her face, her Instagram perfect image crumbling in real time. Daddy, do something, she whined. This is ruining everything. Richard couldn't do anything. For the first time in his life, his money and his connections couldn't save him. Thank you so much for watching. If this story is resonating with you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Now let me tell you how this story ends. I walked to the door where Dad was waiting. He had my bag from behind the paint cans. Emma's car seat was ready in his truck. Donna grabbed my arm as I passed. Her nails dug into my skin. She hissed that I'd regret this, that she had lawyers, connections, people who owed her favors. I looked at her hand on my arm, then at her face. This woman who'd made my life a nightmare for 3 months, who'd smiled while stealing my money and starving me and freezing me and isolating me from everyone who loved me. I smiled at her. A real smile. The first genuine one I'd worn in that house. Then I said 5 words I'd dreamed about for months. I'm not scared of you. I pulled free and walked into the sunshine. Behind me, I heard the detective, Jimmy's friend from the county sheriff, beginning his questions. Richard was stammering. Donna's voice was rising in panic as everything crumbled around her. I didn't look back. Not once. I climbed into Dad's truck, buckled Emma in, and watched the Mitchell house disappear in the mirror. The sun was setting, orange and pink streaking across the sky, like the world was celebrating with me. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings and phone calls, but for the first time in months, every update brought another small victory. Richard and Donna were formally charged 10 days after the party: financial exploitation, fraud, identity theft. The prosecutor added more charges once investigators really started digging. Turns out Richard had been skimming from his business partners for years, too. Smaller amounts, harder to detect, but they added up. By the time everything was tallied, he was facing both state and federal charges. His lawyer told him to prepare for significant prison time. Donna tried playing victim, told anyone who'd listen that she had no idea about the financial crimes. Nobody bought it. The evidence showed she'd been an active participant in everything. The cash withdrawals matched her shopping trips. The communication monitoring was her project. The lies about my mental health were her creation. She was facing her own charges now. Ashley's situation was almost funny. Her Instagram boutique had never been properly registered with the state. She'd never paid taxes on the $15,000 she'd taken from our account. When investigators looked into her business, they found a mess of violations. Her influencer dreams died the day the state tax authorities sent her a letter demanding back payments plus penalties. Last I heard, she'd moved back in with her parents, the same parents facing criminal charges, the same house likely to be seized. Sometimes karma has a sense of humor. Brandon got emergency leave 3 weeks after the party. When he walked through my father's door and saw me and Emma waiting, he broke down. This man, who'd held it together through combat training and overseas deployment, finally let himself cry. We stood there wrapped together, the three of us, and I knew we were going to be okay. Different than before, changed by what we'd been through. But okay, I learned something important through all this. My dad always said to keep your own emergency fund, money nobody else can touch. I wish I'd listened better. From now on, I'll always have savings in just my name. No shared accounts without clear boundaries. No signing documents without reading every word. You never know who might betray that trust. The community reaction surprised me. I expected people to take sides. Instead, I got casseroles, cards, phone calls from church ladies apologizing for believing Donna's lies. One neighbor came by with homemade pie and tears in her eyes. She said she'd seen me limping that day and almost offered help, but decided not to interfere. She'd been haunted by that decision. I told her it wasn't her fault. The Mitchells fooled everyone. That's what abusers do. They create perfect facades. They smile at church. They host elaborate parties. They present themselves as pillars of the community. And behind closed doors, they destroy people. The hardest part wasn't the stealing or the starving or the freezing garage. The hardest part was the isolation. For 3 months, I had no one. No friends, no family, no husband I could talk to honestly. I was completely alone with a baby, surrounded by people who hated me but needed to pretend they didn't. That kind of loneliness changes you. It makes you doubt yourself. Makes you wonder if maybe you really are crazy like they keep saying. Makes you forget what normal looks like. That's why I'm sharing this story. Because somewhere out there, another woman is sitting in her own garage, wondering if she's losing her mind. You're not. You're being abused. And there is a way out. The house went up for sale 2 months later. Richard needed cash for lawyers. I drove by once. The for sale sign looked wrong in front of those pretentious columns. The grass was overgrown. The gardens choked with weeds. The house that was my prison was becoming a shell. I didn't feel satisfaction, just closure. Brandon came home permanently in early spring. He'd been transferred to a base 2 hours from Dad's place. We started looking at houses again. Smaller than we'd planned, but ours. No in-laws with keys, no shared accounts with family, no power of attorney, ever again. The last time I saw Donna was at a court hearing. She looked smaller than I remembered. The church lady mask was gone, replaced by something raw and scared. She tried to catch my eye. I looked right through her, like she wasn't there. She doesn't get my attention anymore. She doesn't get anything from me. Ever again. Walking out of that courthouse, I held my husband's hand on one side and my father's on the other. Emma babbled happily in her carrier, unaware of everything. She'll know this story someday. I'll tell her that her mother was brave. even when she didn't feel brave, that her grandfather drove 200 miles because something felt wrong, that her father believed his wife when it mattered most. And I'll tell her the most important lesson. You don't need permission to stand up for yourself. You don't need approval to demand respect. Anyone who tries to take your dignity doesn't deserve a place in your life. Not even family, especially not family who would hurt you. Some people mistake kindness for weakness. The Mitchells made that mistake. They thought because I was polite, because I didn't fight back immediately, they could do whatever they wanted. They learned the hard way. When you mess with a Porter, you better be ready for the consequences. Family protects family, always. Epilogue. 1 year later, I'm writing this from our new house. It's small. Just 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that barely fits a table. Nothing like the Mitchell mansion with its pretentious columns and circular driveway, but it's ours. Every inch of it. Brandon and I painted the walls ourselves. Dad helped install the new cabinets. My best friend drove 3 hours to help hang curtains. Emma took her first steps in this house, said her first word, "Dada," right there in the living room while Brandon cried happy tears. This is what a real home feels like. Not big, not impressive, just full of love. The Mitchells' trial concluded 2 months ago. Richard got 8 years. He'll be 68 when he gets out, if he survives that long. His health has declined dramatically since his arrest. Turns out constant stress and prison food aren't great for a man who was used to being treated like a king. Donna got 3 years plus 5 years probation. She tried crying on the stand, talking about how she was just trying to help and didn't understand what Richard was doing. The jury didn't buy it. Neither did the judge. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said during sentencing, "you systematically isolated, monitored, and psychologically abused a vulnerable young mother while your husband stole her life savings. The only thing you didn't understand was that eventually someone would hold you accountable." Ashley avoided criminal charges but lost everything else. Her Instagram following dried up when the truth came out. Nobody wants lifestyle advice from a woman whose family stole from a military wife. Last I heard, she was working at a department store in another state, starting over just like the rest of us, except she doesn't have family to help her. I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. Brandon and I started couples counseling 6 months ago, not because we're in trouble, because we want to make sure we never end up like his parents. We talk now, really talk, about money, about family, about expectations and boundaries, and what we want our daughter to learn. We have a rule, no secrets about finances, ever. We review our accounts together every month, both names on everything, no exceptions. It's work. Marriage always is. But it's good work, the kind that builds something instead of tearing it down. Dad comes over every Sunday for dinner. He's getting older. I see it in the way he moves, slower than before, more careful. But his eyes are still sharp and his hugs are still the safest place in the world. He's teaching Emma about tools. She's not even 2 yet, but she already knows the difference between a Phillips and a flathead screwdriver. Start 'em young, Dad says. That way they can take care of themselves. He's right. That's the most important lesson. Take care of yourself. Because sometimes the people who are supposed to take care of you won't. I got a letter from Donna last month. She wrote it from prison. 3 pages of explanations, justifications, and requests for forgiveness. She said she was a different person now. Said she'd found God in prison. Said she wanted to make amends. I read it once. Then I burned it. Not out of anger. I'm past anger. But some doors, once closed, need to stay closed. She had her chance to be a mother-in-law, a grandmother, a family member. She chose to be a thief and an abuser instead. That choice has consequences. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting someone back into your life. It means letting go of the weight they put on you. I've let go of the weight, but I haven't forgotten what they did, and I never will. Emma will know the truth someday. Not now. She's too young. But when she's older, when she asks about her other grandparents, I'll tell her, not to make her hate them, but to teach her. About trust and betrayal, about watching for warning signs, about the difference between real family and people who share your DNA, about standing up for herself, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, and about her grandfather, the man who drove 200 miles because something felt wrong, who helped her mother find her courage, who showed her what real love looks like. She'll know all of it, because stories like this need to be told, not for revenge, not for sympathy, for the next woman sitting in a cold garage, wondering if she's crazy, wondering if anyone will believe her, wondering if escape is even possible. It is. I'm proof. My name is Melissa Porter. I am 30 years old. I am a wife, a mother, a daughter, and a survivor. And I will never be anyone's victim again. Thank you so much for watching my story. It means more than you know that you stayed until the end. Please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss my next story. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. More of my most gripping stories are already on your screen. Click one now and don't miss the best part. You'll love it. See you in the next one. With love and strength, Melissa.